Okay, it's Friday, August 26th, and trading is done for the week, and I don't have to really say too much when you look at the chart here and you see what kind of day we had here today. I already shot two videos kind of at the open, what might develop. I shot just a mid-morning video, and then you can see here by the end of the day, I mean, again, the picture is worth 1,000 words in terms of the big decline we had today. So let's kind of look at what is now unfolding and where the expectations of where we go from here and everything else. Clearly, I mean, it doesn't take, it doesn't, I don't have to go over much in terms of if we have this bar like that, things are pretty bearish and we're going to have some continuation lower. And you just got to keep playing that, and we'll have to see how that unfolds in the days and weeks ahead. And it's going to take a while for anything to reverse to feel comfortable going back up again. But you never know what's going to happen, I guess. In terms of back to the weekly chart, so we end the week here with the shooter bar that did follow through the 2-down week and came down and took out our two targets. And as I described in the morning video, it was a tricky week in terms of that the first day down, gave us those expectations, but then we had 3 tricky days of pause, up move before we reversed to the downside. But in terms of today, let me just take a cord off the phone here so I can move it easier. It was very clear if we bracketed the pre-market highs and lows with these blue lines. As long as the only way you're continuing up, I've discussed it many times, is to have green bar opening price action that holds above the high of that. In this case, we got more or less the opening price action that moved below it. It set up the short trade, and then, it was the Federal Reserve's messaging, plus probably what was going to be happening in the market anyway, at some point, taking it all the way down for the day. And we end up with a big red bar. So weekly charts down. Now you're in a position where you just, obviously you're going to hold. What I did was here kind of drew, this line is not quite the midpoint of this bar, but as long as we hold the midpoint of this bar on any kind of pausing or rallies or anything, then we're expecting the weekly chart to head lower, and we have a target here, we have targets here, we have targets here. I mean, it's a whole pivot machine gun on the weekly chart that we could be going down, 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 and that, kind of leads to new lows eventually if the market really wants to stay weak, and we're just going to stay with it on the downside until something changes. But what I also showed here on this blue line is that it's the open, if we look at it, the midpoint is about here for the week. This blue line here represents the open of the month. And when we go to the month now, what's interesting is we finally have moved into a red month. And what this really monthly chart, this is kind of the bigger picture view. What really this is now, this green bar was just an inside bar. That's all it was after that big decline that started, way back last year. We had a monthly inside bar. It looked green. It continued higher. Once we broke to the upside, we took out our 2 targets, the initial one and then a secondary one. And now all this is showing is kind of an inside bar failure, which means you come down to the bottom of that inside bar. And that's what's sort of developing here in terms, we have 3 days to go, I think, trading next week in the month, or maybe, 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then August ends. If we just end kind of down here with this looking bar, then you expect continuation lower to fail the inside bar to the upside, which is always a good signal. It's like a 2-1, a 2-1-2 trade to the upside. So this inside bar took out that target, but then the reversal, if we break below it starting in September, then we are projecting down to the bottom of that area all September. So we'll see what happens in the last 3 trading days of the month, but we've turned it red. For a while at the beginning, I've been highlighting videos all week showing this was green, green, green. We could be if we continue higher and close strong green, then we might be going up. But now it's looking more and more like, we're reversing to the downside. And again, you just have to look at that daily bar and know that that doesn't reverse anytime soon. Now you could have a pause, kind of like this. You have these two big moves down, you pause for a couple of days. Anytime you have a big move, expect pause. But at this point, you got to look for any rallies to just get excited to go short in some form, whether it's a inside bar down or whether we get a down bar Monday, a little reversal Tuesday, and then maybe a down bar Wednesday. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. We'll go day by day next week, but we're looking lower. I still am, I'm kind of. It's interesting that if I zoom this 15-minute chart out, if you go back, I actually shot a video right here intraday with a SPY warning. I drew that circle in. This was way back on, I think, the 16th or something of August, mid-month. And from that moment on, within the first 15 minutes, I got a big red bar, and look where we've come since then, just down, down, down. So, in the end, on a daily chart, just to review, these for 3 days was just a broadening action and a short. I mean, you can almost see the downtrend here with the gap down. That's a lot of times resistance. So that's why looking for this reversal today, was something to keep in mind, because, this just these 3 days just broadened out this one bar in an overall. After a first push down, a lot of times you get one push, rally, second push, kind of what they call an ABC kind of thing. So we weren't, it looked like we might be reversing today. But again, going back to the intraday chart, this is I guess I'll conclude with this, that I'm with respect to all the daily charts and what's developed, 2 up, 2 down, targets, weekly chart, what might be looking at, the monthly chart, what that's kind of what you do to anticipate what's happening next. But in the end, it really always comes down to, for my, consistency within my trading, of watching the pre-market action, knowing those highs and lows, and watching the open. Because as I've made many videos in the past, very high percentage of the time, the high or low of the day happens early in the session. That's why I'm focusing on that opening bar. And again, I just keep it real simple. I look for one primary move, from that open, and maybe a secondary move, and a day like this is just kind of a move down. And if you really think about it, we paused and we just maybe had a secondary move down. And this is one of those, trend days where it goes the same way, it just continues in the same direction all day long. But a lot of times you just get a little pause and a pullback. So again, I keep it simple with overnight price action. I mark those levels. I look at the open to get the structure on the day. And then once I have some kind of directional movement, I just look for a primary move and a secondary move. And I base all my trading on that. And then, and I keep it in the context of knowing what's developing on these charts. If we go up, what that means, if we go down, what that means. And if it falls in line with, other big picture expectations. And truthfully, this was a pretty easy kind of scenario to know that if we failed here with the 2 up failure, which is a classic, signal when you go up and you go to the halfway point of the prior bar, that fell back in line with all these, scenarios we were discussing earlier in the week. And, it's just not, and you saw how weak the market was at that point. So it's just not surprising, you followed through and took out that, you got the outside bar here, taking out this. And then once that was, taken out, you went to this target, and then once that's taken out, you go to there was no reason to ever think long. And truthfully, going back to the early in the day, what was the long, anything to buy here? Nothing. I mean, you had you had one red bar, a little pause bar, the Federal Reserve was speaking, no green bar. There's nothing here to go long, nothing green that's going above that overnight high. I mean, we came into the day, I was thinking a little bit up because of that, green day before, and I was thinking about the weekly chart, which at the moment looked like it might have a hammer bar to the upside. So, but look at the opening price action, nothing. And if anything, the move down here was kind of a signal that this whole thing was just the broadening act. This could have been a broadening action to the upside as we, reversed and headed lower. And I pointed that out in the opening video. You can see the way I said we just might be broadening up here. And then if we head lower, we might be going back to the lows. So, you have that scenario, you watch opening price. That's what I want to emphasize here, is that this is really the key, in terms of how I view the open. And again, whether it's the perfect way to trade or anything else, it's very consistent. And that's kind of what I wanted to point out here. I always know what I'm looking for. Does it work every time? No. Does this? I mean, you still have to have good trade management. And, I can go over all that, how when you try to make a trade and it fails, you get out very quickly. And then you watch the structure of the day unfolding. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that in the end, with all this analysis you do, what ifs, I'm obviously staying bearish into next week. I know we have continuation moves that should go lower. There are targets here. Sometimes when you get exhaustion, on the weekly chart, you have to wait for a few days of kind of counter, trend type activity before you get short again. We're clearly extended now, even though I think it's going to go lower. So I have to kind of watch the midpoint. If we do rally on Monday, I got to watch the midpoint of this bar. As long as that holds, I'm comfortable on Tuesday getting short. I mean, I can't guarantee we're going to go down, 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 but I can look at the opening price action in next week, and I'll see how that fits into this whole scenario. And the scenario again is clearly to stay short and figure out, and who knows what's going to happen. We can go down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and all the way into 4 or 5 days in a row at this point. I mean, but there's nothing long at the moment, and I'd be shocked, if we open up at the midpoint of this bar and start higher, but anything's possible. But let's just stay to the short side. Monthly charts reversing. This could be very bearish into the whole month of September. We'll keep that in mind. So that's it. Just wanted to maybe bring everything together. I shot a whole bunch of videos this week on the SPY, day by day by day, recaps. And again, very clear, even on these days, which was tricky because you thought you'd get the follow through lower. Even on these pause days, there were good opportunities. This day, there was a great opportunity to buy. I bought Snow, I believe. This day, I went short NVIDIA. These pause days, I kind of forgot what I traded, but there were good trades in here, even though, even it didn't follow through. And this Monday so it was really, there were good trading opportunities. But when you look at it looks confusing to a lot of people where you kind of, went down big, paused, up, even though you were heading down today. And, but in the end, I'll kind of end it here. It was pretty clear what to look for when you watch the, opening price action each day. So we'll see what happens into next week. 3 more trading days of the week, and then we end the month of August, and we really get to start thinking about what September is going to bring us.